Tonight, rail passengers are warned to expect days of disruption after a Glasgow to London train derails in Cumbria. It happened on the West Coast main line. Those on board escaped serious injury, but passengers tell us about the moment they knew something was wrong.
It was about 12 past 6 in the morning or something. I was just sleeping, there was a big screeching sound, and then it just came to a abrupt stop. And the power went off, the lights were off, so yeah.
Also on tonight's programme. The life and soul tributes to this NHS worker from Dundee after a 26-year-old man accused of her murder is remanded in custody. The First Minister announces an extra £25 million to help cut NHS waiting times. Will it work? We'll take a look.
Coming up in the sport, a goalkeeping headache for Steve Clarke as the Scotland manager names his squad for crucial World Cup qualifiers.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. This is Reporting Scotland. Passengers on board a Glasgow to London train which derailed early this morning have been telling BBC Scotland News about the moment they realised it had come off the track. It's believed the 4:28 West Coast mainline service hit a landslide near the village of Shap in Cumbria just after 6 o'clock. A major incident was initially declared, but none of the 86 passengers or crew was seriously injured. Tonight, after a day of disruption, it remains unclear when the line will reopen. Here's our news correspondent, Jamie McIver.
A serious accident, but one which could have been so much worse.
One of the coaches has come off the rails. Coach K, our leading coach, has come off the track.
This was the scene on the early train from Glasgow to London after it derailed in Cumbria. The service left Glasgow around 4:30 this morning. It was much quieter than most mainline services.
We have hit a landslide, so there's been a landslide due to the heavy rain that they've had over the last couple of days.
Around 80 passengers were on board. Campbell Watson was one of them. With the other passengers, he was led off the train to safety and taken down the track, then on to a nearby hotel.
I was just sleeping, there was a big screeching sound, and then it just came to a abrupt stop. And the power went off, the lights were off, so yeah.
Was it pretty scary? How were you feeling?
I was a bit shocked. I was thinking there was delays up ahead of us or something like that. Usually there is, but 20 minutes later they were saying that it was a crash and a landslide or something like that. So
miraculously, there were no serious injuries, though 4 were slightly hurt. The obvious damage to the front of the train, a sign of the force of the impact. The line around the accident has been closed all day and will stay shut until further notice. Scots heading home have been caught up in the disruption.
I'm going to Glasgow. We're down in Blackpool, so we had to get a train from Blackpool to Preston, then a coach, 2 hours in a coach to here. And now, hopefully, this train will leave at 1 o'clock.
And there have been big problems for people in Scotland travelling south, with no trains from Glasgow beyond Carlisle. Passengers for London were told to head to Edinburgh, then get the East Coast train to King's Cross.
We have to go to Edinburgh and then go from Edinburgh down to King's Cross. It's hard work, so I think we're just going to leave it and try our luck tomorrow.
I'm going down to my daughter's. My daughter lives there, and I'm going down to babysit. And I'm supposed to be picking my granddaughter up at 3:30. So I was getting off that train at 2, straight to the school and getting her. So now I have to arrange another thing.
Some heading for the north of England travelled by somewhat convoluted routes. These ladies were off to a concert in Liverpool.
I've just spoken to the gentleman from TransPennine Express. We're now having to go from here to Queen Street to Edinburgh, Edinburgh to somewhere, and end up in Liverpool at some point.
While there's huge relief nobody was seriously injured, the disruption for passengers heading south is set to continue for several days. The train now needs to be removed from the line, and the line will need to be checked and if need be repaired before Britain's busiest rail line can fully reopen. Jamie McIver, Reporting Scotland.
Well, as we saw in Jamie's report, a nearby hotel was used as a rest centre for those caught up in the derailment. Our reporter Cameron Buttle is there for us in Cumbria tonight. Cameron, there must be a lot of relief there tonight. 4 minor injuries, but it could have been a lot worse.
It was, and there's a real sense of that. You're talking about 90 people on 11 carriages in the early hours of this morning. There's a sense this clearly could have been much more serious. I spoke to a senior member of Network Rail staff earlier on today, and they were very pleased about their response, their team's response, and of the emergency services, because remember, this was a major incident declared early this morning. The crash site itself is a few miles over the hills in that direction. It's very remote, very difficult to get to. So there's a sense that even though there weren't any serious injuries, this was still a significant operation to get all of these people off the train and to safety here at this hotel where they set up the reception centre. And within just over 4 hours, most of these people were on buses and on their way again.
Well, let's talk about the travel then, because clearly there's been a lot of disruption today. Do we have any update on how long that's likely to last?
Well, the Rail Accident Investigation Unit is already on the scene here. They're clearly going to be focusing on the landslide. But I've just been told before we came on air that they're getting teams up on the site tonight, and they're already going to start getting machinery and equipment in place to try and remove the train, get it out of the way. Then they can start work on repairing the track. And what I've just been told a few minutes ago, they're actually hoping that they might be operational on this line again by Wednesday morning.
OK, good news it seems then in that respect. Cameron, thank you very much. Police are investigating a discovery of a bag of possible remains in Western Bartonshire. Officers are searching an area of Alexandria this evening. Our reporter Gillian Sharp is there.
Well, we understand that officers were called here to the Arthurstone Road area at around 9:45 on Sunday morning. I don't know how much you can actually see behind me, but this is a wooded area at the end of a lane which runs down the back of some houses. There's a small stream to the side here. Now, since we arrived here about 5 o'clock, we've seen a couple of people in white forensic suits. There's one police van and some police tape up. Police say they were made aware of a bag with possible remains and that the contents of the bag are being assessed and inquiries ongoing. It comes after body parts, identified as Graham Wright, were found about 15 miles away in Loch Lomond in September. But it's understood officers are not currently treating Sunday's find as being linked to Mr Wright's disappearance. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland.
To some of the day's other stories now. And the father of a Fife man who went missing 12 years ago has said every year gets harder as he appealed for information on the anniversary of his son's disappearance. Alan Bryant went missing when he was 23 after a night out in Glenrothes on Sunday the 3rd of November 2013. He was last seen on CCTV at Styx nightclub, about a mile from his home. A 19-year-old man is in a critical condition in hospital following a hit and run in Port Glasgow. The man was walking home from a night out along Ardmore Road around 1 a.m. on Sunday when he was struck by what police believe was a dark-coloured Vauxhall insignia. Officers don't think it was a targeted attack and have urged the driver to come forward. University and college union members at Dundee University will strike for 5 days next week over the institution's plan to cut jobs. The proposals are part of measures to tackle a £30 million deficit. The university said it would do everything possible to mitigate any impact on students. And Scotland's biggest music festival will take place weeks earlier than normal next year. Transmit is usually held over the second weekend of July, but organisers DF Concerts have announced next year's festival, the 9th to take place, will be held from the 19th to the 21st of June. It's understood the first wave of bands and singers for the event at Glasgow Green will be revealed in the coming weeks. The father of an NHS worker whose death has been treated as murder has described her as a bubbly person who always tried to help people. Natalie Egan's body was found in a property in Dundee after reports of a fire there. A 26-year-old has been charged with murdering Miss Egan. Louise Cowie reports.
The alarm was raised at around 7:30 on Friday morning. Police had received a report of a fire within a property here in the Byron Street area and cordons were put in place. The fire was extinguished and a 37-year-old woman who was inside was later pronounced dead. Following a post-mortem examination, the woman's death was treated as murder. She's been named as Natalie Egan, a nursing assistant who worked at Dundee's Ninewells Hospital. Her father today paid tribute to her. Pat Egan said that devastated doesn't even touch the sides when describing what his family are going through following Miss Egan's death. She was always bubbly, the life and soul she always tried to help others. Mr Egan also thanked the rescue services and Police Scotland. NHS Tayside have issued their own tribute, describing Natalie as a vibrant and valued member of our team who will be greatly missed by all who knew her. Callum Miller did not appear in the dock during a short hearing in private at Dundee Sheriff Court earlier, with the case being held in his absence. In addition to the murder charge, he is accused of 3 charges of theft, including allegedly stealing a vehicle. No plea was entered on his behalf, and the case was continued until next week for further examination. He was remanded in custody.
Louise Cowie with that report. The First Minister is pledging further cash in a bid to cut waiting times in Scotland's NHS, insisting he is determined to do more to tackle the problem. The Scottish Government will provide health boards with an extra £25 million this year in an effort to provide more appointments for patients. Our health correspondent Lisa Summers reports.
Getting patients seen more quickly is a top priority for the government.
How are you? Nice to see you.
And the First Minister took time to talk to some at Scotland's biggest hospital. Across Scotland, health boards are trying to increase capacity to drive down waiting lists. Glasgow's chief executive told John Swinney it's not always easy.
It's a jigsaw puzzle to try and get it right, and right now we're probably at a point where there's too much pressure.
1 in 9 people are currently waiting to see an NHS specialist, with 86,000 waits of over a year long. The government says it's focused on putting an end to this by March next year.
More patients are being seen, more procedures are being undertaken, which is an indication of a system that is recovering from COVID and is delivering a much higher level of performance. So I think we can be optimistic that we have turned a corner in the approach that we're taking on waiting lists and that we're seeing sustained progress being made for patients in Scotland.
The money will go to specialisms with some of the longest waits, including orthopaedics, dermatology and gynaecology. Doctors say all waiting impacts on patients.
Their physical condition is, impacted. It affects their mobility, their general fitness deteriorates, and that makes surgery, when it does come round, of higher risk. So not only do they suffer symptoms, but their overall condition often deteriorates.
There could be further challenges to meeting waiting times targets, with resident doctors set to ballot on potential strike action and the pressures of winter looming. But the government says it's determined that progress will be made. Lisa Summers reporting, Scotland, Glasgow.
A man has been charged with the murder of a Scottish woman who died on a Greek island 16 years ago. The body of 53-year-old Jean Hanlon from Dumfries was pulled from the water in Crete in 2009. It was initially ruled an accident by Greek authorities, but after campaigning from her family, the case was reopened. Our reporter Suzanne Allen has more.
Jean Hanlon had lived in Crete for a number of years, working in local bars and tavernas. She went missing on the 9th of March 2009. Her body was recovered from the sea 4 days later. It was initially ruled an accident by Greek authorities, but after years of campaigning from her family, the case was reopened. Now, after 16 years, someone has finally been charged.
I find it really hard to describe how I'm feeling this now, because a lot of mixed emotions, and especially over the past 16 years, we've had so many highs and then been kicked down to the floor again. This is amazing, and to see also our lawyer and the private investigator also share the same happiness, joy and positivity just gives us that extra strength and hope that, we've finally got this. We're going to get our mum's day in court and we're going to get her justice.
An initial post-mortem determined Ms Hanlon had drowned, but a re-examination later found injuries consistent with a struggle. Fresh appeals from a television documentary and an appearance on the Greek equivalent of Crime Watch didn't yield any new information. Jean's family hired a private investigator who identified a potential suspect and passed his findings to police. He was then questioned, but back in August, the case was thrown into doubt over claims of insufficient evidence. But now, the Council of Judges in Heraklion have overturned that.
Justice for Jean.
Michael said the family had suspicions from the beginning, and it's been a lot of back and forth to Crete to keep the pressure on the authorities.
From day one, I think when anybody goes through an experience like this, especially the loss of a loved one in such horrible circumstances, you always question everything. But we were lucky enough at the time to build up a brief description of suspicions surrounding her death. And then it got to a point where we had done all the investigating that we could at that point, so we could do everything we needed to, i.e. keeping the pressure on, but we'll definitely be planning to going out there for the trial.
A trial will hopefully take place within the next year. Suzanne Allen, reporting Scotland.
Tonight's main news again. Rail passengers are warned to expect days of disruption after a Glasgow to London train derailed in Cumbria.
And still to come in the sport, the stage is set for the League Cup final after a dramatic weekend at Hampden.
Now, coming up on the BBC Scotland channel at 7 o'clock, Amy Irons speaks to Marianne Kennedy about the legendary folk musician and broadcaster Archie Fisher, who died at the weekend.
When you have a music presenter who's also a musician themselves, they're able to bring a particular point of view. They are on the side of the musician, but they're also on the side of the audience because they know what it is to try and make that connection between musician and listener. And I think he brought that in spades.
And you can see that full interview over on the News at 7 coming up shortly on the BBC Scotland channel. Lewis is here, as you can see.
I am indeed.
And we are getting to the sharp end of this World Cup qualification, aren't we?
Yes, we certainly are. It's a shorter campaign as well, but it's starting to get to that nervy point where you're thinking, oh, just finish it already. But
I can't beat it.
They can get the job done, Laura here, so thanks very much. Oh, yes, that's where we start tonight, because the Scotland head coach Steve Clarke has played down the significance of his goalkeeping headache ahead of this month's vital World Cup qualifiers, with Falkirk's Scott Bain replacing first-choice keeper Angus Gunn in the squad, while Hearts striker Lawrence Shankland is also recalled for the games against Greece and Denmark. Well, Bain hasn't played for Scotland for 6.5 years, but he has been instrumental in Falkirk's great start to the Premiership campaign. And the 33-year-old will be vying with Craig Gordon and Liam Kelly, neither of whom have been playing club football, for the number 1 jersey.
It's a different position. Quite often they're the number 2 or the number 3. As long as you know you've got boys who train well, work well, they should be ready for the game. Scott Bain made a big decision to come out of Celtic and go and play regular first team football, which now that he's in the squad is probably a reward for that decision.
And here is the full Scotland squad for these upcoming games. Take all that in. Bristol City fullback Ross McCrory has earned a recall. The more familiar names are all there, though, including captain Andy Robertson, John McGinn, and that Napoli duo in midfield, Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmore. Hibernian striker Kieran Bowie drops out to make way for Shankland's return. And if Scotland avoid defeat in Greece, then beat Denmark at Hampden just 3 days later on the 18th of November, then they will qualify for next summer's World Cup.
We would have been delighted to be in this position, coming into the last 2 games of the qualifying campaign, having already eliminated one of the major threats in the Greeks. What we have to do is make sure that we get the result we need in Greece to make the Denmark game here a cup final.
And I'll be discussing that goalkeeping selection headache for Clarke over on the News at 7 in more detail very shortly. Now moving to the League Cup semi-finals, and after St Mirren and Celtic booked their place in the final, there's no shortage of talking points following those matches at Hampden, with Rangers requesting an explanation from the Scottish FA as to why Celtic defender Austin Trusty wasn't sent off in yesterday's Old Firm clash. Celtic ran out 3-1 winners at the National Stadium, taking the lead through Johnny Kenny in the first half, before Danny Rule's side were reduced to 10 men for this fill here by Tilo Asgard. Not too many complaints on that one. However, the League Cup holders could have been reduced to 10 men as well when American defender Trusty left a boot in on Jack Butland. Perhaps fortunate to only see yellow there. Rangers did pull level late on from the penalty spot. Anthony Ralston deemed to handle the ball. And then James Tavernier, so reliant from 12 yards, duly dispatched the resulting spot kick to take the game to extra time. But it was his opposite captain who provided the winning moment. A thunderous effort from Callum McGregor, too much for Butland, and 19-year-old substitute Callum Osmond then added a third late on as Celtic make a move one step closer in their bid to lift a 23rd League Cup. But does interim boss Martin O'Neill expect to still be in post come that game in December?
Secretly you would love to, but
If it had been, it's December time. Look, we're in the results business, and all of these things can change. These games, it's all about results, and that will determine whether they think that, or the board might think about taking their time. If we'd got beaten today, I might not even have seen Thursday.
What we did today to show this big character, it's outstanding, and I think we should never speak again the mentality at the moment about the team, because today the team showed how big is this part of our game.
Well, before all of that unfolded, St Mirren secured their place in the December showpiece in style with a thumping 4-1 victory over Motherwell on Saturday. The Buddies grabbed a 2-goal lead before the Steelmen snatched one back late on to threaten a comeback, but that was snuffed out almost instantly with 2 goals in the final 5 minutes of the 90 to mark a memorable trip to Hampden for the Paisley side indeed. And they'll be heading back there. Now, Scotland are expected to name a much-changed side for the visit of New Zealand on Saturday after dismantling the USA 85-0 in their opening autumn test match. Darcy Graham and Jamie Dobby both scored hat-tricks in the Murrayfield rout, Scotland's biggest margin of victory in the National Stadium's history. And that was without Blair Kinghorn, Finn Russell and Ben White, who were all ineligible. But players who play for a club outside of Scotland will all return to the fold to take on the All Blacks, fresh from their win against Ireland in Chicago, as the Scots prepare to beat the most famous team in rugby for the first time ever.
Yeah, it's got a different twist to it, isn't it? You're playing against a team that we, like in recent history, haven't played against too often, and when we have recently, they've been very good, like exciting games for our supporters, for our players to judge themselves against teams that are up there. So, and obviously with the games that they've played recently, it's been good to watch them and their progression. And we know they come to this tour battle hardened with a few games under their belt. So that was really important exercise for us at the weekend, and also the week we had as a wider group last week.
And finally from me, Scotland's Ewan Walker will rub shoulders with European golf's elite next year after ending 3 years of disappointment to claim his card on the DP World Tour. Fellow Scots David Law and Daniel Young had already earned their tickets to the main tour before the last event of the Hotel Planner season, and Walker made it a hat-trick with a joint third-place finish in Mallorca to make it into the top 20. So congratulations to him. And we always like to have another interesting golf, don't we? Because the Scots in golf are doing rather
I was going to say, we've got the golf sewn up. We don't need to worry about that.
That's my viewing side.
Just look at the World Cup qualifiers. Just concentrate on that.
I'll do one thing at a time.
Thank you.
Cheers, Laura.
OK, finally, before we head to the weather, classic cars are to take to Highland Roads at the beginning of next year as part of a rally spanning 1,500 miles from John O'Groats to the south of France. The Monte Carlo rally began at the northern tip of mainland Scotland 100 years ago and will once again start from there in January. Today, some of the cars previously involved in the rally were on display in Inverness.
It's a tough event. We do most of the UK and then across France. Well, we go to Holland, Belgium, France, over the Alps in the snow, hopefully, and then down into the sunshine of Monte Carlo. I usually go in an old car and you're glad that it makes it. There's always going to be problems now and then, but you usually make it. You prepare it well, it finishes.
Well, Joyce here. Now, the Monte Carlo sunshine sounds nice. I'm not sure we had that today, especially not in Kilmarnock in Ayrshire.
I promise we did in some places, but definitely not in Kilmarnock and definitely not in the West Coast. But there was some sunshine, I promise, which we will see in a minute. Good evening, everybody. Yes, this was the picture for much of the country. It was wet, it was windy, spells of rain pushing in from the west. But here's some sunshine, particularly across the northeast and the Northern Isles. We did see blue sky sunshine and a very mild airflow. Does mean today temperatures higher than average for this time of year. Now, this mild airflow will be with us throughout the week, but with low pressure in charge, that will continue to give an unsettled feel, feeding in multiple weather systems, so more in the way of rain at times as we move through the week. Tonight, we'll see heavier rain, particularly for the central belt and the south, moving away. Further showers pushing in from the north, some heavy bursts again, but by morning across the mainland, clearer skies developing. Another mild night to come and a blustery one, especially across the northwest and in the Isles here, fresh to strong, even some gale force gusts continuing at times. Tomorrow morning though, a dry start for central northeastern spots with early sunshine. We have this band of cloud and rain also continuing for much of the day across towards the Isles, and heavier rain too in the south. But as we continue for Shetland, an improving picture compared to today. Winds beginning to finally ease here. It is though across the northeast, parts of Stirlingshire and even into Argyll we'll see the base of the dry sunny conditions as this rain for Dumfries and Galway and the borders will linger for much of the day. Similar picture too for the northwest Highlands, the western Isles and up into the northern Isles where we have this band of cloud and rain slowly working its way southwards and eastwards. Similar fare too for more southern spots. As we move overnight though, winds will fall light. We could see some mist and murk first thing in the north, but further rain is on its way throughout Wednesday. Initially dry, fine in more northern spots once any mist and fog lifts. As the day progresses, we will see cloud potentially pushing its way far northwards, and then this heavier showery rain pushing in once more from the south. Winds falling lighter, but temperatures still peaking around about 13 or 14 Celsius, and it is going to be an unsettled feel towards the end of the week and the weekend. Low pressure very much in charge, although there will be some dry spells between the rain. That's forecast.
Gosh, it is mild, isn't it?
It is very mild for this time of year.
Playing havoc with the autumn wardrobe anyway.
It is, but I would take
the least of your worries though, Joy.
And cold.
Thank you. Now tonight's main news again. And rail passengers on the West Coast Main Line are facing days of disruption after a train derailed in Cumbria. The Glasgow to London service hit a landslip near the village of Shap this morning. No one was seriously injured. Police are investigating a discovery of a bag of possible remains in West Dunbartonshire. Officers are searching an area of Alexandria this evening. And tributes have been paid to an NHS worker from Dundee after a 26-year-old man accused of her murder is remanded in custody. Emergency services found Natalie Egan's body at a flat in the city on Friday. And that is Reporting Scotland. The late news is at 10:30. Until then, from everyone on the team, enjoy your evening. Good night.